The palace of the errant dominion was flawless. Too flawless. Its walls were grown from crystalline alloys that refracted light into mathematically perfect angles. Corridors stretched endlessly, silent and sterile, designed by minds that worshipped symmetry and efficiency. Nothing was out of place. Nothing was alive in the way that mattered. The errant were ancient, winged, luminous beings whose civilization spanned star systems. They commanded gravity engines, living ships, and medicine that could rebuild organs molecule by molecule. Yet now, within the heart of their empire, something was dying that no machine could repair. Their children. They called it dissolution syndrome. The young stopped eating. Stopped playing. Stopped responding. Their wings dulled, their eyes lost focus, and eventually, they simply faded. No pain. No struggle. Just quiet surrender. Doctors worked endlessly. Councils convened. Algorithms searched for answers. None were found. Into this palace of whispered despair walked Daniel Reed, a 38-year-old human maintenance worker from Earth. He wore a gray utility uniform, carried a cleaning cart, and had no clearance beyond authorized staff. He wasn't a scientist or diplomat. He was here because human labor contracts were cheap and humans didn't complain about long hours. Daniel scrubbed floors beneath beings who barely noticed him. On his third week, while polishing a balcony near the royal residential wing, he saw a child sitting alone. She was small for her species, wings folded tightly, staring at an untouched tray of nutrient gels and radiant fruits. Servants stood at a distance, afraid to interfere. Daniel didn't see a princess. He saw his son. The same posture. The same hollow stillness he remembered from hospital nights back on Earth, when fear had been bigger than words. Daniel hesitated, then sat down on the cold floor, back against the wall. He opened his lunch container. A simple sandwich. Bread. Protein spread. Nothing special. Hey, he said gently, holding it out. I don't know what you're supposed to eat. But this is mine. If you want it, it's yours. The child looked up. Confused. Curious. Slowly, she reached out and took a bite. The moment shattered the silence like glass. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the Queen of Aranth arrived, her wings unfurling in shock. Guards raised weapons. Advisors shouted. But the child kept eating. For the first time in months, color returned to her wings. And the palace, perfect, cold, and unyielding, took its first breath in years. The emergency council convened within the hour. Holographic displays filled the chamber with medical data, gene sequences, and probability trees, all of them useless. The errant High Council demanded explanations. They wanted pathogens identified. Variables isolated. Protocols restored. Daniel stood in the center of it all, hands still smelling faintly of cleaning solvent. He didn't belong there, and everyone knew it. You interfered with royal medical treatment, snapped Counselor Valrix, her silver-marked wings twitching. Without authorization. Daniel swallowed, then nodded. Yes. Silence fell. But, he continued, your doctors are looking in the wrong place. That caused outrage. The errant prided themselves on logic. Emotion was considered a secondary function, useful, but inefficient. To suggest their models were incomplete was borderline blasphemy. You believe you know better than centuries of medical science. Valrix hissed. Daniel shook his head. No. I believe you forgot something simpler. The Queen watched him closely. You didn't break your children's bodies, Daniel said. You broke their sense of belonging. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. He explained what he saw, relocation programs that separated families for optimization, sterile environments stripped of familiarity, children raised by caretakers trained to observe but never connect. They're not sick, Daniel said quietly. They're lonely. The council dismissed it as sentimental nonsense. But the queen remembered her daughter's wings brightening over a human sandwich. Against all precedent, she authorized a trial program. No machines. No diagnostics. Just presence. Daniel became a constant figure in the medical wing. He sat with children who refused to speak. He listened to silence. He shared stories from Earth, messy homes, loud families, imperfect lives. Slowly, impossibly, the children responded. They ate food cooked by colonists instead of synthesized paste. They laughed at games that made no sense. Their wings regained color. Their vitals stabilized. Data confirmed what philosophy could not deny. They were healing. That's when Counselor Veilrix acted. Calling the program reckless and illegal, she ordered a forced extraction of the children back to sterile wards. Enforcement units descended on the outer colonies where Daniel had relocated them. At dawn, ships filled the sky. But they were met by the Queen herself, wings spread wide, power unmistakable. Hope is not inefficiency, the Queen declared. It is survival. The raid was halted. The war, however, had just begun. The tribunal chamber was vast and merciless. Daniel stood alone before beings who could shatter moons. Counselor Veilrix laid out her accusations with surgical precision, violated protocols, emotional interference, endangerment of royal heirs. This human is a liability, she concluded. Compassion without control is chaos. Daniel was offered a defense. He didn't quote laws. He didn't cite data. He told a story. Back home, he said, voice steady, my son used to cry at night when storms came. I couldn't stop the thunder. I couldn't fix the sky. All I could do was sit with him until it passed. The chamber was silent. Sometimes, Daniel continued, people don't need to be fixed. They need to be seen. The Queen rose. She revealed the independent results. Every child under Daniel's care had improved beyond all projections. Growth rates normalized. Psychological metrics surpassed pre-syndrome baselines. The evidence was undeniable. Veilrix's arguments collapsed under the weight of living proof. The verdict was swift. Daniel Reed was not dismissed. He was appointed Director of Family Integration across the Dominion. The palace changed. Cold corridors echoed with laughter. Medical wards became communal spaces. Efficiency was no longer the sole metric of success. 6 months later, Daniel stood on a balcony watching children play beneath alien suns. Something still ached in his chest. The Queen joined him, holding a data pad. There is a transmission from Earth, she said softly. A transport arrived days later. A small human boy stepped out, eyes wide. Dad! Daniel dropped to his knees as the universe narrowed to a single embrace. The Dominion was never the same. Other civilizations studied the errant recovery, searching for formulas and technologies to replicate it. They found none. Because the cure wasn't chemical. It was human. Daniel walked the gardens with his son and the Queen's daughter racing ahead, laughter bridging species without effort. No treaties. No translations. Just connection. You changed us, the Queen said. Daniel shook his head. You already knew how. You just forgot. Across the galaxy, policies shifted. Family units were preserved. Emotional well-being was measured alongside productivity. Humans gained a reputation, not as conquerors, but as anchors. They stayed. They listened. They reminded civilizations why they survived long enough to reach the stars in the first place. History would record the event with many names. The errant called it the warm turning. Humans called it something simpler. Being there. And sometimes, that was enough to save an entire species.